This is obviously unacceptable.
Please. I mean, get in there, you know, especially this area.
Yeah, there. Hello there, today I'm featuring my buddy Pat's setup. He goes by the artist name Stereo Image. I've left links to his socials as well as his music in the description of this video, so go check that out. He's already been on this channel a few times, and in one of his videos he featured his DAWLESS improvised techno setup, which he actually still uses. Absolutely insane. Here's a link to that video. But today it's hitting a little bit different. One of the instruments that he's using is the Lyra 8, which we all know is a very organic sounding instrument. Well, Pat is just in a very masterful way pulling that quality out of the instrument and accenting it with the Analog 4, using it specifically as an effects unit, essentially. Honestly, I've never seen anyone use the Analog 4 specifically as an effects unit. I've seen people use the Octatrack in that way, but not the Analog 4, so it's just a really interesting concept. When Pat's on the channel, basically anything that he presents, you just know it's gonna be quality, so always super happy to have him here. I always like to mention this at the beginning of the video, ways of supporting this channel. There are several ways of doing it. Obviously, just being here right now is great, so thank you for being here. And that's totally enough, but if you'd like to take it a step further into this community, I have a Discord now. It's becoming more and more active, and it's just, I think, the best way to communicate directly with you guys, answer your questions, maybe post little tidbits of future videos that I'll be posting, like little teasers. If you'd like to take that support a step further, I also have a Patreon where I post exclusive content, extended versions of videos. That's also another direct way of supporting. There's also affiliate links in the description of this video. Okay, well, on with this video.
This is my ambient drone setup, you could say. I've only had the chance to perform with it once, and it was only a section of a larger rig, the rest of which was my techno rig that I've had on the show before. This works neatly with the other gear too in that way. Mainly what I wanted to do is just perform live with the Lyra.
Well, before you even go forward with the setup, what gave you the audacity to want to perform live with the Lyra 8?
I think just the more I get into building live sets, the more I'm into doing things off the cuff and improvise. I like the risk. I feel
this is like the biggest risk you could take live.
I mean, like, yes and no. I honestly, if you spend enough time with it, people describe it as like, oh, the Lyra 8 plays you, you know, like, you don't play it, and like, oh, you just go on its journey or whatever. But like after a while, you start to kind of get to know when it's going to step out of your control, and you choose those moments on purpose, you know, like, okay, it's going to be chaotic. I might not know what it's going to do, but like, this is the moment for it. And I'm able to reel it back in, and I have enough control over it that I'm willing to bring it in a live setting.
And would you say that in order to, I guess, gain full control over it, you would need to introduce a MIDI controller? Like, how did you incorporate that with the Lyra 8 in this whole setup?
This is actually just for this.
Okay.
So what's happening is I'm actually not using any oscillators in this, the Analog 4. I'm using this purely as an effects processor for the Lyra.
Okay.
So I have this going into the input, and then that goes into one of the channels, and then so effectively the Lyra becomes the oscillators of the Analog 4. So then I get the rest of the chain. I get the high pass filter, the low pass filter. I also get the envelopes that I can sequence trigs and put that on the sequencer, and then have it chop up into a more rhythmic thing. And then there's the effects ends, so I get a chorus, a delay, and a reverb. So I'm just using this as an effects box.
Okay.
Could I have used another piece of gear? Yeah, maybe.
Like the Octatrack, maybe? What made you choose the analog?
I don't have an Octatrack anymore. I got rid of it.
There's the
So,
there you go.
I mean, this is all just in my head. but I just like the fact that it is an analog signal path and then like sends to digital effects. It's especially considering this thing does that. I don't know. It just feels good.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it necessary? No, absolutely not. And it's just making me use this machine completely different than I've ever used it before.
Right.
It's giving me more control over it. That's also giving me the confidence to bring it on stage. So like just being able to have a high pass and a low pass filter, especially when I'm working with other gear, I can fit it into the mix and just choose that narrow bandwidth of frequencies that I needed to lay in without it conflict, because this thing just takes up the whole spectrum, especially the bass. Oh yeah, and then I have this guy at the end. This is again just my mastering chain, and I have a couple of effects before the mastering chain. In here, what you heard was a pitch shifted reverb.
That's what was giving that sort of string sound?
So this was like a whole revelation for me.
Okay.
I stumbled upon this and I was like freaking out for days because this is just the signal path, like I said, is just like analog synthesis. So to be able to get something that sounds like a string section is just mind blowing.
Right.
All it is just the lyra going through. Here, let's do something here. So I just have this going into the chorus. And then when I put the feedback of the chorus all the way up, and then and I move around the pre-delay of the chorus, I'm just playing with chorus parameters.
So in terms of like the sharpness, like if you brought this down, now it doesn't. Okay, now it just sounds like strings with a filter on it. So it's like. There's like a sweet spot there.
It's kind of a sweet spot, and you know, if you play with the pre-delay and
very cool.
Man, just incredible. I don't know if it would have that same effect throwing anything into it, but for some reason throwing the lyra into that chorus and playing with those parameters in that way, holy wow, it just sounds like an acoustic instrument.
Wah wah wee wah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a real big revelation for me, and that's I love that, because I've had these two pieces of gear for a long time and I've never used them together in this way, and I love the idea of just using different combinations in different ways and then just having an aha moment of like, wow, I never would have gotten this sound with just one of these devices. It's like most Lyra 8 performances, if they are at any point tuned, it starts tuned and then that goes out the window at some point.
Atonal.
What's nice about this setup too is this guy, not just doing my mastering, but I have a tuner on here.
Oh yeah.
Super handy at the gig that I can show up and I'll throw it in a key, choose maybe a different key every time, and then I'll kind of like start off all these knobs down, no modulation, no sharpness, turn all that stuff off. That's a really good starting point for this machine.
And is there a particular chord that you start off with? Like, are you doing fifths, or like how did you tune all of these to start off with?
To be honest, this particular tuning, I figured out on Ableton, chose a key, and then put 8 notes in and just kind of figured out which ones would sound good if all of them were playing at once. Okay. Because I tend to get into that point with this machine where just like all the oscillators are playing. Yeah, and that was a thing too. I just wanted something that had the right mood for the journey we were about to take.
Just like with the PC-12 with your improvised techno setup, are you using all of these?
I really wanted to. And then I ran into a bit of a snag. These 2 rows are assigned to things in track 1, which is the only track I'm using, which is where the lyra is going through.
Okay.
And then I wanted to assign these to the effects parameters, And then I found out that they're not MIDI CCs. They're like another extended MIDI format that makes it so it has more resolution, but
is that because the analog rhythm is old?
Yeah, like I don't see that much anymore. Like I understand why it would be convenient because it has more resolution. It's like a format where there's kind of points in between the 127 MIDI steps, but it means that this controller that only sends CCs can't map to it.
Okay.
So disappointed. I was like trying to find a wraparound way of doing it. Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. It was fine. I just go in here and I'll play with the parameters up here. No problem. But I did want at least the track 1 parameters to be like right here by my side because I don't really like playing with endless encoders. There's no muscle memory attached to endless encoders. You kind of have to look at the screen to turn them. With this one, it's right at the middle. I know exactly what it's doing.
Oh, I
just have to glance at it and I know what it's doing.
I get it.
You know, and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have that much filter envelope on. Or like, oh, now I have a lot of it. I barely even need to look. I can just glance and then not look. While I'm looking at you, I can turn it and I know exactly how much to turn it for it to do the thing that I need to. But as soon as it's endless encoders, you don't have that. You have to stare at the screen. And these ones especially, they move at different speeds depending on how much you turn them. And so for me, muscle memory is everything when it comes to performing.
I completely agree with you. Digging a little bit deeper into the setup, the next thing we're going to be focusing on is how Pat uses the FaderFox PC4, which is basically a smaller version of the PC12. So how is that being integrated into the setup and which parameters are being controlled within the Analog 4? Before getting into that though, let's talk about today's sponsor, DistroKid. If you're someone who's using gear like this and maybe you've been creating your own music that you'd like to officially release to all major streaming platforms, DistroKid is the perfect option for this, and they're specifically targeted to independent artists and producers. They give us the tools to promote our music and the freedom to do it independently. So here's a few reasons why they're great. In terms of what's new, they recently released a smartphone app, which makes checking your important DistroKid stats easy and accessible. The app is now available on Android through the Play Store. Essentially everything that you've been able to do on the DistroKid desktop app, you're now able to do through your smartphone. In fact, here's a list of key features that the app offers you. You might want to pause it now if you want to check them out. In today's day and age, we all know how many hats we have to wear as artists and producers. It can just be a lot, so write the music, produce the music. Then you've got to create content to promote it a few weeks before it's released. Then you've got to continue creating content after it's been released to promote it. It's a lot, and I'm not saying that DistroKid does all of this work for you, but they do make it a lot easier for us with the free promotional tools that they offer. The one I use most is Hyperfollow. It's essentially a free landing page or link tree. It's super clean. You could link maybe your latest video, your latest single, other important links you'd like to lead people to. I also use promo cards whenever I release a single. Just select the single that you would like to promote and it'll auto-generate a few different options for you to choose from. Go with DistroKid. It's just over $20 a year to release unlimited music to all major streaming platforms. You keep 100% of your streaming royalties. So many other tools that they offer for someone who's independent. They're made for us. And there is a discount linked in the description of this video if you would like to join. So in terms of what you have set up here, like what exactly are you controlling? And I guess why?
Here, I'll go to another patch. Now what's happening here is on the sequence, I have trigs. And the trigs are opening up an amp envelope.
Okay.
And then so the first 3 knobs are the decay, the sustain, and the release.
Very cool.
This is cool too because if I get like kind of a texture, I can even go crazy just modding this and going, I'm going to crazy town right now with the lyra. But that doesn't scare me because I've now made a rhythmic thing out of it, right?
Yeah.
And then I can put some delay on it. So these 3 are my effect sends. So I have chorus, which is hard to hear like this. Then I have the delay send. And then an extra reverb. There is a main reverb going on everything on here right now.
Okay.
This is the low pass filter. This is the resonance.
Ooh.
Then this is the filter drive, so I can put even more drive after this one.
There's some techno. Oh yeah, this drive is like apocalyptic. It's like insane.
So sometimes I might mix a bit of this one. And then under here, I have a high pass filter with its resonance as well.
Let's get a kick going on this. I just want to hear a kick. Oh, the textures are so cool. Yeah.
Sometimes I want the drone to be really bass heavy. Kind of an old trick is to put up the resonance on your high pass filter. And then I sweep to find right where that fundamental is, and then I boost the fundamental with the resonance of the high pass filter.
Mm-hmm.
On a big system, it's crazy.
Yeah, that would
you
sound
could just
insane.
get it to rumble.
Yeah, like you said last time, you find like the resonance that explodes in the room, and you just like lean
same
into
thing.
it.
Except you have to find the resonance that's happening from the machine and then boost that. That's these two. And then these two were supposed to be the chorus ones, especially the ones I was doing to do the strings.
Mm-hmm.
Delay, you know, I like to have the high pass, the low pass, the feedback, and the time are important to me. And a reverb, the decay, and kind of shelving the high frequencies.
Okay.
It's simple, but there's hours of exploration to find within this. Even if you don't have this exact gear, there's definitely a lot of ideas to pluck away from this setup.
Well, I mean, if you don't have the lyra though, it's
That's hard one to replace.
if you know, you know. Like if you've tried it out, it's like okay, this is a whole other beast.